Hey friends, before we start this video, this is serious enough that I'm like coming to you right now, right? Just a warning, since we're talking about anti-LGBTQ rhetoric and stuff coming out of the mouths of multi-level marketing distributors, naturally the conversation is going to lead to some religious topics. There is a decent amount of talk about religion in this video, and while I understand that most of my audience who still considers themselves to be Christian still can watch me because they understand where I'm coming from, y'all know my story. If you don't know my story, I'll post a link down below where I talk in depth about my religious journey and where I am and all that stuff, so you can get a feel for that if you haven't heard me talk about it before. But yeah, if you're someone who wants to still keep consuming my content because you like me as a person, but you don't want to get ragey angry at me because I'm about to say things that you're gonna probably disagree with or you're gonna find insulting, even though we're literally talking about like reading comprehension at this point. So if you are a faithful person, I'm not trying to condemn you. We're just speaking from a logical standpoint here. But if that's something that you feel like you can't handle, I think skipping this video will probably be best for you so that you can maintain whatever image of me that you have, whatever it may be. But this topic is very important. It is Pride Month after all, so it's important to me that we spotlight these nasty MLM distributors who are proudly preaching anti-LGBT values, or lack thereof, I suppose. So I just want to put this out there first, like, sorry if that's something that you can't watch and you can't listen to and you can't stand it when I talk about this stuff. This video is not going to be for you. Probably skip this one and I'll see you next week. Otherwise, if you're here to stay, get ready. This is going to be a fun one. What's up, wave makers? It's me, Mommy Suna.
It's set in Switzerland.
I don't have a good intro today. Before we get into all that, let's start with some happy news first. I have some new merch and I'm wearing it. It's a shirt and it says "Thruggling" on it. Are you thriving? Are you struggling? You can be both if you're thruggling. This came from one of my live streams recently where some hun that was like, here's how you know if you're struggling or if you're thriving, and it's like, well, I'm both of those things. So it comes in a few different designs and I don't know, support your girl. Check it out. I also have a few other merch designs, like oh hi Griffin, I put my rose tattoos on some merch, and I also put my mouth on some merch also. So check all that out. Support your girl. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a baby here. Hello, sir. Welcome. Not so much a baby anymore, huh? That's what you guys always keep saying to me. But anyway, all right. Happy time's over. You guys, there is not a single happy thing that I'm going to cover today. And of course, I've been trying to make this disclaimer for the past few videos because it really has been actually working out. If you start watching a video here on YouTube, try to let the video play all the way through, because the YouTube algorithm actually works off of watch time. So if you let a video play all the way through, if you watch it all the way through, the algorithm's like, oh, people like this video, and then it pushes it through. And that has been ringing true to my channel in the past few weeks since I've been asking you guys to do that. So thank you for doing that, for those of you who do. That being said, again, today is gonna be a heavy topic. These MLMers are out here running amok. It's Pride Month. As much as it's like the time to talk about human rights and love is love and stop being a judgmental prick, these MLM distributors are out here really buckling down on being bigots. First of all, happy Pride to all of you. It's a very important month. It's a very important time. Last year, I came out on Instagram, so if you're not following me there, you probably didn't know that. It's been a year since I came out. What are you doing, sir? What are you doing? But I'm still to the point where, like, I don't really know if I consider myself part of like the LGBT community because I'm married, you know, to a man. So I'm in a straight relationship, and I obviously identify as a cis woman. So I don't really see the discrimination that so many other people do. So like, it just doesn't really feel right to me to be like, yeah, I'm part of the community too. It's like, because I don't know, I just don't feel like I belong. But I think over the past year, I've been able to really define it more, because when I did come out last year, I said, I'm just coming out as not straight. I think I can confidently say that I'm pansexual. So anyway, just to put that out there, because I know a lot of you guys probably don't know, and I think that's a lot of the reason why I mean, you don't have to be part of the LGBTQ community to like be an ally, of course, but I think I just get really passionate about it because, like, God forbid that anything were to happen to my husband and I had to end up on the single and ready to mingle situation, like I don't even want to think about it. The idea of trying to date today these days nowadays is just like terrifying to me, and I feel for you guys. I really do. If I were to ever find myself in that situation, like, I don't know that I would date men, you know? That's where I stand on it, just so everybody knows, like, I'm not like virtue signaling or anything, because like, while it doesn't affect me today, it could affect me tomorrow. You know what I mean? I hope that clears that part up. So either way, you don't have to be part of the community to be an ally. So I particularly have a soft spot in my heart for Pride Month because it made me feel comfortable enough to come out as a married woman in a straight relationship. It gave me the courage to still come out despite how kind of taboo and weird it seems to a lot of people, because it's like, why do you care? You're a married woman, and I'm very happily married. I don't want to be married to anyone else but my husband ever. I love him. I think the point is I could potentially be attracted to anybody. That's where I'm at anyway. So now that we have that out of the way, let's get into this. Oh god, where do we start? There's just so much, you guys, and none of it's good. Let's start with Veronica Bay. She got married at the end of last year, I'm pretty sure. So her name is Veronica something with an S. I don't know. I don't remember at this point. I don't care. She's Veronica Bay to me as far as I'm concerned. So she rose to anti-MLM fame because she was a senior executive director in Monet, and then she jumped over to iGenius. I'm pretty sure, is she the one? Because I don't follow these people as closely as other people do, but I think she's the one who like didn't join WFAB when they switched over to iGenius, right? I'm pretty sure it was her. She did jump ship with everyone else to iGenius. Correct me if I'm wrong. But now she doesn't post about network marketing at all. She actually does real estate now, but her link on her Instagram profile leads to like one of those forms or whatever to fill out. It's like an application, and it's like asking if you want to learn how to trade and stuff. So I think she's still active in iGenius, but she's not out here posting a bunch of network marketing content. What she is posting though, however, is a bunch of transphobic nonsense. I was trying to figure out like if she was still in iGenius, if she was still doing network marketing. I was like scrolling through her Instagram and stuff, and I couldn't find like anything, except there was a live at the end of last year. It was an hour-long live, and the description was like, why I haven't been posting about network marketing, and also like schooling you on life or something. I couldn't make it through the whole thing. It was unusual is probably the nicest way I can put it. I got like 20 minutes in, and she kept talking about being possessed and saying that everybody is possessed.
I was talking about being possessed.
She's like on some pretty wild Jesus-y stuff. And this isn't like the typical, like, I'm a Christian, I go to church every Sunday. No, this is like she is exhibiting some religious cult behavior in the way that she speaks. She's very difficult to listen to. So I couldn't figure out what she was going to say about network marketing, and I didn't care at that point. I didn't care to make it through that whole live. I was just like, I can't take it anymore. But yeah, if you like look at all of her stories and stuff, she's like posting Jesus stuff every single day, which you do you. It's obsessive. It's a lot. Anyway, so the other day she posted what we're about to watch on her stories. It's extremely transphobic, and yeah, buckle in.
My husband and I were talking about it yesterday. When we went down to downtown, I saw this group of like kids. They must have been 16, and one of them was trans and was dressed up as a girl, although he was a boy. And he looked so sad, so like, I don't know, like it was so weird. But I see this oftentimes with these people that become trans, and then they're walking around all like weird. And I'm going to say something that's probably very unpopular, but I just think that a lot of these people just need therapy. And, you know, because then they go after these new lives in search of more fulfillment. And I feel like you don't find more fulfillment in changing the exterior. You find more fulfillment in figuring out the interior. And this has to be more talked about, because all you need is therapy.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about it, Veronica. First of all, who are you to say that this trans kid, what their feelings were? Like, what? You're so perceptive that, like, you can tell that they're just, like, sad all the time? Oh my god. There's so much. Okay, here's something that these transphobes never want to mention or even admit. They're running around being like, you're chopping kids' wieners off. You're mutilating children. And it's like, it is very, very rare that someone under the age of 18 goes through gender reassignment surgery. No one's chopping off dicks. No one's doing any of that. Puberty blockers, aka HRT, hormone replacement therapy. Do you know the steps that a kid that a family has to go through to get a kid on puberty blockers? Because HRT, by the way, isn't just for trans people. HRT can be stuff like balding medication for men. If you're mad about a person using hormone replacement therapy as trans healthcare, I guess, but you're not mad at the balding man who's using it to not lose more hair, you're a hypocrite. Listen, if God made you so perfect, just let the hair fall out, sir. It's ridiculous. Anyway, in order for a minor to be able to get on hormone replacement therapy in the first place, they do have to go through actual therapy. There are not doctors out here who are just like throwing hormones at everyone who walks in the door. They legitimately need to be screened by a professional to then determine if they are a candidate for hormone replacement therapy. So do they need therapy? Yup. And they do go through therapy. If you're looking at a kid and they are using hormones to affirm their gender, they have been through therapy, and a professional, who is not you, Veronica, a professional deemed them a candidate for such therapy. Tell us about how, oh, all these people, all they need is therapy. Yeah, I mean, that's part of the process. Congratulations. Stop with this. This rhetoric it's so wrong. Secondly, how do you know that the reason that trans boy what did she call him? A boy dressed up as a girl. How are you so certain that even if he was like very obviously sad, how are you so certain it had anything to do with the way he presents himself or herself? I guess the pronouns would probably be herself, right? You know that no matter what gender you present yourself as, you still have emotions. Maybe her dog died. You don't know. Maybe they have bigoted ass parents like you, Veronica, who are refusing to accept them for who they are, and it's becoming very difficult for them. Don't sit here and pretend like you know what's going on behind closed doors, dude. You don't. And it's so wild to me because everything that I've just said about like needing therapy to get hormone replacement therapy and stuff when you're a minor, I mean, probably for adults too. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think you can just go get hormone replacement therapy even if you're an adult. You have to be seen and evaluated and stuff first. But like, this stuff is such a common talking point when you're actually just listening. Like, open your fucking ears and listen to trans people, listen to gay people, listen to people who are different than you. I know it's really hard to do. It's easy for you to be confused about this and how it must feel because you were born in a brain that reflects your biological sex. Congratulations. I know it must be hard for you to understand, but it's really not that hard to just be an empathetic person. If you just listen to any of these people, any of these talking points, this is a pretty well-known thing. People who think that trans people get to just like go to a clinic and get their chopped off and that parents are like submitting their children to have that done to them, like, people who think that are not listening to trans people. They're not listening to the LGBTQ community. They're not listening. They're just listening to grifters. They're listening to people who are trying to create a divide instead of actually listening to the people who are going through it. It's just one of those things where I'm almost like, how do you not know this? It's because she refuses to listen. It's because all of these people refuse to listen. They are trying to force their ideals upon the rest of us without listening and empathizing with those of us who are different from them. If you just listen, you wouldn't have to sit here and have this conversation with your husband and be like, yeah, they clearly just need therapy. You would know. You would f***ing know the place that therapy holds when it comes to trans healthcare. Anyway, there's more to this. The caption on this one says, parents, don't let the system raise your children. There is no system in place that's telling your kid that they need to be trans. Like, what are you talking about? You need to stop watching Fox. You need to stop watching OAN. You need to stop watching Newsmax. You need to open your fucking ears and just listen to the people who are actually affected by all this anti-trans, anti-LGBT rhetoric and legislation. Listen to them. Stop listening to the people who are trying to make you believe it's something that it's not. What system are you talking about? Anyway.
Saying that being transgender is not a real thing. I'm sure there are people that actually are transgender, but it's a very tiny percentage.
Okay, so if it's such a tiny percentage, then like, why do they even care anyway? If it's just like a few people, then why do you care? Why are you trying to take gender-affirming healthcare away from such a small percentage of the population? Like, why do you care? Why is this a thing? I think what she's trying to say is like, oh, all these people who think they're trans aren't actually trans. You're not in their head. Again, why do you fucking care? That's what it all comes down to with all of this. Every time I hear these kind of talking points, I just have to wonder wonder, why do you give a shit how other people are presenting themselves? Why do you care? How is that affecting you? It's not.
But now that we talk about this so freely, it's like in the minds of children, of teenagers, they're going through a lot of changes. And a lot of times they're growing up in households that they're not happy in. And now you're giving them this option of, hey, you could change your gender, when they probably recognize that with, hey, I can change my life. Maybe I could be happier. Maybe, you know.
I think it's really cute that she's sitting here trying to like, this is how trans people think. You don't know. Again, just listen to a trans person. One time. Open your ears and listen to a trans person. It's not that hard. I understand, yeah, kids go through shit. Kids are raised in homes that they're not terribly happy in. But you know what? Those homes that they're not happy in are probably homes to far right-wing Christian extremists who think that gay and trans is demonic and you're possessed and blah, blah, blah. Like, imagine living in a house where your own parents think that you're possessed by the devil. Like, yeah, I would hate being there too. She's like, oh, how dare we talk about this so freely? It's like, why is it such a big deal to just be teaching, like, acceptance? When we talk about other people to our kids, it's just a matter of, yeah, that's just how they feel, and we just live and let live, basically. And then, you want to know, like, if I say something like that to Sparrow, my 7-year-old, do you know what she would say? She'd go, oh, okay, and then move on to the next thing. You want to talk about, like, you know so well what kids are thinking? Kids are much more innocent and much less brainwashed than the rest of us. And when I say us, I mean you, anti-trans assholes. Children reflect what we teach them. If we teach them, yeah, that person looks like a boy, but they're wearing a dress, it's fine. Doesn't affect us. Live and let live, you know? Let them do that. That person looks like a girl, but they want to be called he. Okay, we accept that. Doesn't matter. It doesn't affect us, but it makes them happy. It's like, it's not that hard to understand, and kids understand that, dude. Kids learn hate from their parents. Kids learn hate from people like Veronica. It's honestly disgusting. And for her to be like, not only do I know what kids these days are thinking, I also know what trans kids are thinking. And trans people, I'm in all of their heads. Ma'am, you are not. Please let trans people exist. Quit trying to police their fucking lives, man.
This is what's wrong with me. And it's so sad how many young transgender people I see walking around that just look awkward and uncomfortable and unhappy.
First of all, Veronica lives in Florida.
Florida is where woke goes to die.
Being a trans person in Florida is probably the scariest place to be a trans person. Well, okay, not the scariest. The scariest in this country, anyway. She's like, I walk around Florida all the time and I just see all these trans people looking so uncomfortable. It's so weird. I wonder why! Gee! Why could that be? Probably because most of the people who live there are just judging them, and they're afraid to just be themselves and present the way they want to. These kids are not presenting themselves as the opposite gender just to make their friends happy. Like, that's not a thing. A child is not going to want to go through all the hardships of gender affirming care just to make their friends happy or whatever, because, like, it's literally doing stuff with hormones to your body. It's not just like some little thing. She's looking at this so surface level. I'm in Florida. Trans people look uncomfortable and unhappy. Yeah, because you're in Florida and your fucking governor is actively trying to make them feel so ashamed because they want to present themselves a certain way. That's disgusting. You're disgusting, Veronica. You're absolutely disgusting.
And that's not a person that needs new clothes. It's a person that needs therapy.
Being trans is not about what clothes you wear. Shut up.
And this is why being a parent is the most important thing, because you need to make sure that you're guiding your child in the right way. And
guiding your child in the right way is teaching them empathy, teaching them to not give a shit about what other people are doing if it doesn't hurt anybody else. That's being a good parent. Being a good parent is not, oh, hey, little Timmy, you feel like you have a crush on a boy and not a girl? How dare you? You're not allowed to do that. That's against God's will. God doesn't want you to do that. You must be possessed by a demon. Time to go to conversion therapy. That's not being a good parent. That's abuse. Trying to make your kids feel ashamed of the things that they can't help. You are actively raising a person to live a very unhappy life. They're gonna feel like they can't be themselves around you as their parent. Now that's shitty. That's shitty. That's being a bad parent. But no, let's just make sure that we don't let the system raise our kids. What? Please explain. Like, what is the system, Veronica? Oh, that was the end. I thought there was more to it. I guess not. One other thing I do want to ask is, okay, Veronica, what do you propose to be the solution? Network marketing? there is network marketing rhetoric in here. And that is the part where she goes, these kids are unhappy and they feel like they need to change their lives. But then, like, basically suggests that the way that they are trying to change their lives is not the right way to change their lives. Okay, what is it? You turn 18 and then get into cryptocurrency? Read your Bible and trade crypto, right? Is that it? The audacity. She's buckling down. But she's not the only one who's buckling down. We also have here, this is a post I'm gonna have to read to you guys. Tony Van Schoik. She, surprisingly enough, you know, Veronica was in Monet. She's not in Monet anymore, but Tony Van Schoik is the purple-haired older lady in Monet, like the OG. She was like one of the first distributors or something like that. She made a post that's very transphobic, LGBT-phobic, whatever. So let's read that, shall we? I've been thinking about this for days, watching the world devalue women, saying it's okay, saying it's a fault, and as identification. Well, listen up. I am woman, hear me roar. I'm the pride lioness, and I refuse to use pronouns. I is a pronoun, but okay. I refuse to allow anyone to reduce my gender. Women are dominant, and for centuries we have been enabled. Wait, enabled? Enabled? I don't think that's the word you meant to use. Because, like, enabling someone is you're encouraging someone to, like, do things instead of, like, suppressing them. I feel like that's where she was going with that sentence, but it doesn't make sense. And then she says, made less than, and now what's going on is unacceptable. Ladies, rise with me. This is imperative that we stand strong, and for fuck's sake, not let men in our restrooms, teams, or anything that we are doing. It's time for us to unite and stand together. Join us next Thursday and on the 22nd. Let's fucking go. Jesus Christ. Okay, where to begin with this one, Tony? For her to say that she refuses to use pronouns and then proceeds to use personal pronouns throughout that entire post is really silly. You sound dumb. Also, how should we address you, Tony? Do we just call you Tony? We don't say she? It's so weird. She's trying to empower women in this post, but at the same time also being like, I'm not using pronouns. So, like, are you offended if we call you she? Are you ashamed? Like, should we not call you she? Or are we supposed to be proud of being called she? Which one is it, Tony? This doesn't make sense, Tony. No one is, like, reducing your gender. She's mad about trans women. So she's being a TERF. That's exactly what she's doing. She's being a TERF. A trans exclusionary radical feminist. She's like, yeah, women, except for the ones that weren't born with a natural vagine. Everyone else is cool. Because here's the thing. Trans women are also women, because what it means to be a woman is something that has been set by society. It is a societal standard, not a biological one. You are confusing gender with biological sex. And to that I say, when these kind of posts come out, I have to always bring up, damn it, what is that guy's name? He was the trans man who appeared on the Tyra show a long time ago. Buck, I think? Buck Angel? Is that his name? I'm gonna look it up real quick, just to make sure. Yeah, Buck Angel. I'm scrolling through his Instagram right now. Say if you're a woman, biological and presenting, and you see this man in the woman's restroom, what would you think? This would make you uncomfortable, right? Well, guess what? This man has a vagina. He's trans. He's a trans man. There are pictures of him online, basically looking like this, buck naked, showing off what he's got down there. And you will probably be surprised to know that it is not a penis. So, to come back to Tony's point here, she is suggesting that this man needs to be using the women's restroom. Really? Really? And can you imagine if you're a trans woman? Look at someone like Blair White, okay? We don't like Blair White. We don't stan her. But she's beautiful. She is very much so passing. She's a trans woman. She is more beautiful than a lot of biological women. But can you imagine how uncomfortable it would probably be for her to be forced to use the men's restroom? Now, I don't know if she's had bottom surgery. Something tells me she hasn't, but I don't know. And I don't care. It doesn't matter. See, this whole thing, it comes down to, why the fuck does anyone give a shit what your genitalia looks like? Who fucking cares? And it's weird if you care. Get a new hobby, man. Stop giving a shit about what's in other people's pants. So someone like Blair White looks like a woman because because she is a woman, despite how much of a bigot she is. Like, she would probably feel unsafe using a men's restroom because she doesn't belong in there. If you are somebody who looks at Buck Angel and calls him she, and then if you look at Blair White and you call her him, first of all, you are ridiculous. And second of all, I should stop using Blair White as an example. Maybe Kara Cunningham. I love her. Or you know what? No, the best one, the bestest one, Dylan Mulvaney. What am I doing? What am I doing? I'm sitting here being like Blair White. No, Dylan Mulvaney. Okay. Anyway, let's see. What else did Tony say here? Women are dominant. Yeah, sure. Women can definitely be dominant in plenty of situations. I agree that as women, we have been and continue to be talked down to, shut down, oppressed. Women have been discriminated against. Yeah, all those things. Like, I absolutely agree here. But she's being very turfy in not considering that trans people, trans women specifically in this situation, are the ones who are being extremely persecuted and discriminated against here in Tony Van Schoik's post. She wants to stand and unite together against trans women is basically what she's saying. So that's great. That's cool. Great job, Tony. Now, one last anti-trans, anti-LGBT post here. I know that Hannah Alonso ended up sharing this. I'm not actually sure what MLM this girl is in, so let me look here. Most of what she posts is like Jesus stuff. Oh, she's with Melaleuca. Okay, I knew this. And she posted this a few days ago. This LGBTQIA plus movement is unbiblical. I could unpack so much here. Here's my opinion on the whole Sodom and Gomorrah thing. And when I say it's my opinion, it's just a matter of basic reading comprehension. Like, do I need to fucking pull up the Bible verses? Like, Jesus Christ. We can read this shit together. I believe it's Genesis 19. All right, we're gonna actually, hello, welcome to the Bible study. Welcome to Savannah's Bible study. Welcome to Savannah's Sunday service. Today we're going to learn about Sodom and Gomorrah. Now listen, I have a point here. Let's just read this together. The two angels arrived. Griffin's like, please don't read the Bible in this house, Mom. Sorry. The two angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. When he saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. My lords, he said, please turn aside to your servant's house. You can wash your feet and spend the night and then go on your way early in the morning. No, they answered, we will spend the night in the square. But he insisted so strongly that they did go with him and entered his house. He prepared a meal for them, baking bread without yeast, and they ate. Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house. They called to Lot, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we can have sex with them. So let's recap where we're at. Two angels came to Lot, and the angels are like, no, it's fine. Like, we're just gonna go chill in the town square. Like, it's fine. And Lot's like, no, I insist. Like, let me make you food and I'll shelter you and all these things. They're angels, and that's what you should do for angels, right? Then all of the men from every part of the city of Sodom, so every man in Sodom, came to the house and said, hey, Lot, we want to f those angels. Let's continue. Lot went outside to meet them and shut the door behind them and said, no, my friends, don't do this wicked thing. Look, I have two daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you'd like with them. But don't do anything to these men, for they have come under my protection of my roof. Yeah, Lot was like, don't f those men. Those men in there, those are angels. Can't touch it. No touchy. No.
Can't touch this.
But here, have my virgin daughters. Do whatever you want with them, but don't hurt the angels. Fuck you, Lot. What a dick. Father of the year. Get out of our way, they replied. This fellow came here as a foreigner, and now he wants to play the judge. We'll treat you worse than them. They kept bringing pressure on Lot and moved forward to break down the door. But the men inside reached out and pulled Lot back into the house and shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the door of the house, young and old, with blindness so that they could not find the door. The men inside, I think that's the angels. So the angels were like, smite you. Goodbye, sight. Toodaloo. The two men said to Lot, do you have anyone else here, sons-in-laws, sons or daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here because we are going to destroy this place. The outcry to the Lord against its people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it. Anyway, so long story short, like I'll probably cut some of that out because it's just kind of blah. But basically, then this is where we want to talk about God being an asshole. Not only did he burn down that entire city, he told Lot and his wife to like, hey, go and don't look back. And then Lot's wife was like, huh? And God's like, I told you not to look back. Boom, turned her into a pillar of salt. Our God is an awesome God. He turns women into salt. You want to talk about going back to Tony's fucking post? Who is the OG oppressor of women? God. Because if you don't obey him, you just turn into fucking salt. Anyway, so what do we gather from this reading? Here's what I gather. The angels showed up and they're like, God sent us to destroy this city. When we start looking into actual reading comprehension, it's not made completely and entirely clear. So in the chapter before, God actually tells Abraham, the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great and their sin is so grievous that I will go down and see if what they have done is as bad as the outcry that has reached me. If not, I will know. So while, yes, the angels went to Sodom and they're like, hey, we want to fuck your angels. Yeah, that's a sin. But God sent the angels to destroy the city before they were like, we're gonna fuck the angels. Now in Ezekiel 16:49, now this was the sin of your sister Sodom. She and her daughters were arrogant, overfed, and unconcerned. They did not help the poor and needy. They were haughty and did detestable things before me. Therefore, I did away with them as you have seen. I'm pretty sure like the term sister is referring to like it's the sister city, like because Sodom and Gomorrah were two cities. So they're like the sister cities. I don't think they're referring to like an actual person, but it sounds to me like we can't definitively say that the reason that Sodom and Gomorrah was a thing, that legendary like God burned down Sodom because of the gays. Are we sure that it's not because of, how do I say this without getting demonetized? Unconsensual act towards other people in a group unconsensual violence. You know what I'm trying to say? Are we sure that it wasn't that? And in Ezekiel, it's like, it said nothing about men loving men. It said nothing about any of that. To try to say that homosexuality is a sin because God burnt down Sodom. He had his reasons before he was gonna destroy Sodom. He sent them there, and then like, let's just add another sin on top of it. All the men were like, we want to fuck those angels. Like that was just the cherry on top, okay? And then the next morning God like rained fire and shit and burned it down. But he sent the angels before. There was other shit that they were doing that God was like, this city needs to be destroyed. So the point of me bringing all that up is to say that from a point of reading comprehension, to me it's unfair to say that, like, to speak definitively that Sodom was burnt down because of the gays. No. And actually there's plenty of biblical evidence that points to other things that's not that. What that story is anti-LGBTQ people using that story to condemn gay people. That and like, are we really gonna say that every single man in Sodom was gay? Like, okay, well, they obviously were reproducing, so no, like, I don't think all of those men wanted to fuck the angels because they liked fucking men. I'm gonna have to censor myself on this one. Wow. It was clearly an act of violence and not an act of lust. If those men were all homosexual and that all they wanted to do was get their rocks off, then they had a whole group of them. They could have just been doing it with each other, right? Why they gotta do it to the angels? It was very clearly an act of violence. Just further portrayal of the people of Sodom just being like wicked, terrible people who are willing to just like gang non-consensual violence. They're willing to just jump on that shit whenever. Like, if you love the Bible so freaking much, you can't just cherry pick parts of this book when they're, okay, yeah, so maybe if you only read the Sodom and Gomorrah story, the only obvious reason that it was burnt down is because of that situation we talked about, okay? But there's another book that if you read that part, which this is probably the part that the churches don't want you to read, that just says like everyone was a glutton and no one wanted to help the poor and the needy. They were all just like overeating and evil and mean and did detestable things before me. So it's like, well, those detestable things are not made very clear, but it sounds to me like God wanted to destroy Sodom because everyone there was an asshole who only cared about themselves, not because of homosexuality. Anyway, I think we really all understand like the situation here with the Sodom and Gomorrah story. So let's get into this post. This person, again, in Melaleuca, I think her name is Tiffany something. First of all, the caption to this photo says, as a Christian, I can no longer stand by idly while companies continue to shove this in our faces and down our throats. This transgender movement goes against everything I believe as a Christian, and I refuse to continue to fund these evil agendas for the sake of convenience. Please point out very specifically in the Bible where it says anything about being transgender, and whatever it is you're pointing to, whatever verses you're going to try to pull out of your butt, can you look at the context of the verses surrounding it? Is it also going to tell you that you can't eat shellfish touch, or you can't do this and that. Also try to remember that if it's in the Old Testament, if you're following the laws of the Old Testament, you would be a Jewish person, not a Christian. Christianity basically follows the New Testament and everything that Christ says. So everything before Christ is just kind of there as a pretty good reference. You want to call the Bible a history book, there you go, there's your history. But true Christians follow Christ, which is New Testament. Jesus himself, let me just remind you that he did say that, like, that was the old law, here's the new law. If you still adhere to the old law, then my death is in vain. And you don't want Jesus's death to be in vain, do you? Behaving in a way that literally goes against Jesus's commandments is literally saying that your Lord and Savior died in vain. So, like, please take a look in the mirror and ask yourself how you're okay with this. Please justify this to yourself, because, like, this is the thing that I cannot understand. If you're not loving your neighbor, if you are so full of hatred for your neighbor because they are presenting in a way that you yourself probably would not, ask yourself why. Where in Jesus's teachings have you been taught to behave this way? I refuse to fund these evil agendas for the sake of convenience. The only evil I see is this fucking post that you're making here. She says, thankfully, I don't have to. A year and a half ago, I found a store, aka a company, aka Melaleuca, an MLM, that aligned with what I stood for and never looked back. They're pro-life and pro-America us? America US? I don't know. 100% debt-free. They support our troops and our first responders. They have safe, affordable products, blah, 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 shampoo, vitamins, blah, 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 essential oils, blah, 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 blah. They ship to my door faster than Prime. Doubt that. Prime has same-day shipping. Like, shut the fuck up. And it saves me time and gas money because I can shop without ever leaving home. Okay, yeah, you can do that with Amazon too. Not that Amazon's great, but, like, shut up. All these companies that want to continue to make deals with the devil can keep their products. I'm done giving my money to companies that hate me. No one hates you, ma'am. You hate us. This post is so fucking clear. Let me make this clear, okay? Because I have received messages of people who are just like, I don't really feel like I'm welcome in your community as a Christian. That's not true. And I don't give a shit if you're a Christian. All I'm asking, because, like, I was a Christian for 25 years, okay? All I'm asking is that you, like, question shit and you, like, think logically, and that if you're ever in a situation where you need to answer to why you believe the things that you do, I just want you to have a good answer. Think about that stuff. And also, think for yourself when it comes to social justice and other people. Like, I don't think anyone would have a problem with Christians if they all were actually what a good Christian should be, which is loving, kind, accepting. But most of these people just aren't that. So if you're a Christian in my audience, like, of course, I'm never meaning to offend you. I just want you to think. This woman is acting so persecuted. These companies hate me. What? They hate you because you're Christian? No, they don't. Like, please, do not sit here and try to tell me how Christians are so persecuted in this country. They're not. You're actually, like, the biggest and most popular religion in this country and the world? Yeah, Christianity is 2.4 billion people in the world follow Christianity, followed by 2 billion who follow Islam, and then Hinduism and Buddhism. Anyway, number one religion in the world is Christianity. You are not being oppressed. You are not being discriminated against. But so many of these people are using the Bible to legislate against people that don't believe in what they believe in. And that is wrong. The only hate that is going on here is Christian love. And that's that. Anyway, instead I choose to shop at the wellness box where my values align and I can feel good about giving my money to a company that not only cares about me, but also our country, the preborn, and the lives of those who serve to protect our country as well. We haven't even gotten into the fucking post yet. That's just the caption, okay? This LGBTQIA+ movement is unbiblical. Again, please tell me where in the Bible it says that this is wrong. I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of seeing grown men dressing up as women and promoting our products. This goes against my beliefs as a Christian and is not what God designed men and women to be. One thing you gotta understand, that even though Christianity is the biggest religion in the world, there are a lot of us here in this country especially that don't hold to any religion. So it's really not fair for you to sit here and try to tell us what we've been designed to behave like and act like and present ourselves as in social situations by a God that we don't believe in. Here we go. Agree to disagree on this one, please. Like, you think that we were created, and I and the rest of the skeptical community here, we don't know what the fuck happened, and we're okay with not knowing. Like, we're just here and we don't think a God did it. God has defined what a man and a woman is in Genesis 1:27, and this is definitely not what he intended. Hi, editing Savannah from the future here. I just wanted to point out that I just noticed that she didn't capitalize the H in he. That's very unbiblical. She's going to hell. How blasphemous. Have you no respect for your God and his pronouns? What is Genesis 1:27? Let's look that up. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. That's all that Genesis 1:27 says. Male and female are biological sexes. It says nothing about gender. Again, another example of people confusing gender with biological sex. In that case, hey Tiffany, have you seen God? How do you know what his image is? God is probably non-binary, let's be honest. If God is real, he's non-binary. He's not a man or a woman. He's a spiritual overlord, okay? Oh, I'm stupid. This whole thing, it has the verse down here. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. Yeah, okay, it says that right there. I didn't have to look it up, whatever. He also created intersex people. Like, see, this kind of like rhetoric, it just like completely disregards, like, isn't it like a like 1% of the population or something is intersex? It is estimated that up to 1.7% of the population has an intersex trait, and that approximately half of 1% of people have clinically identifiable sexual or reproductive variations. How many people per 100 are intersex? 1 to 2 people in 100 are intersex. So what about them? What about the ones that are born, that God put in the womb of a woman, and then came out unadulterated, not touched by anyone but God? What about them? They came out not really being one sex or the other. What about them? You're just totally disregarding 1% of the fucking population here, ma'am. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot of people. A lot of times these intersex people who are born, it has to do with like chromosomes and like hormones and stuff like that. Like, it's not something that you can normally see from the outside. So this argument that Tiffany is making here is just, it is disregarding a decent amount of people who are born. She would probably say, oh, well, it's because of all the products that we use that are just so bad. No. Intersex people have been around since the dawn of time, okay? They did not just start sprouting up out of nowhere. The moment like industry happened, and then suddenly there's like mass production and we're processing so many foods and all this stuff, and now there's chemicals and stuff. It's like, no, intersex people did not just show up when that happened, okay? It is a natural thing. People like Tiffany would absolutely try to take the blame away from God in any way possible. Well, God made her a girl, but then the mom was around all these chemicals when she was pregnant, and that made the things they were forming differently. Anyway, let's continue. The Bible is also very clear on Christians taking part in evil and darkness have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. Ephesians 5:11. Again, the Bible does not actively condemn homosexuality the way that these people say that it does. And the ones that say that it absolutely does, they don't have any like reading comprehension or critical thinking skills at all. So that's not our fault. Hello, back at it again here from the future. Who can really truly blame these Christians for being confused though on things like this, especially when we're talking about how to behave around evil, blah blah blah, whatever. Let us not forget that in Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, he talked about loving your enemies, and here's exactly what he said. In Matthew 5 verse 43, he says, "You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." Jesus also said in verse 38, "You have heard that it was said, eye for eye and tooth for tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person." And he basically goes on to say that the whole eye for an eye thing is bullshit. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek. If someone wants to sue you and take your shirt, give them your coat too. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go 2 miles with them. Essentially, you need to be taking the high road. You shouldn't be turning your back on evil. You should be basically going along with it as a good Christian so that the evil might see your Christian goodness and be like, oh shit, I'm an asshole and this person's being kind to me and not turning me away for being an asshole. Wow, they're a really good person. But she is literally doing the opposite of that. But again, who can blame them for being confused? Because because obviously the Sermon on the Mount is New Testament, but Ephesians also is. So then you have to ask them, well, are you going to listen to what Jesus said during the Sermon on the Mount? Because that's a pretty important part of the Bible. It's pretty defining, I would say, of where your beliefs as a Christian lie. And then you're going to go to Ephesians, which isn't Jesus's own words. It was some other guy. Is it Paul? I don't really remember. I could look it up, but I don't care. He's the one who made that quote in Ephesians. So it's like, okay, well, which part of the Bible are you going to believe? They contradict each other. That's just one of many contradictions in the Bible. So I just want to point that out. I guess we can't blame her for being confused. However, what she is probably more so doing is just cherry picking the verses that fit this general situation. She's cherry picking verses that justify her hate. Just so happens that that particular verse is contradicted by Jesus's own words in the Sermon on the Mount. But I digress. Anyway, back to the video. As a Christian, I refuse to take part in it anymore. It's evil. It's demonic. And I won't continue to fund their agendas for the sake of convenience. Instead, I choose to shop with a company whose values I can get behind. This is all the stuff that she posted in the caption. I understand you can't get away from all these companies entirely, but when there's a better option that aligns with your values and morals, why wouldn't you make a switch and support a company that supports the same things you do? Now, here's the other thing that always bothers me about like this shit. Like, for example, all the people who are protesting and boycotting Bud Light. What's the parent company of all those? Bush, whatever the f. Sure, they sent a beer can to Dylan Mulvaney with her face on it. But if you go and look at like the political donations that, oh, Anheuser-Busch, that's what the name of it is. If you go and look at their political donations, a very big majority of the political campaigns and the organizations that they donate to are very right-wing, extremist, anti-LGBT. They donate to right-wing politicians all the time. So it's just really interesting to me that even though, yeah, like, and this is a good lesson for all of us to learn, that even though a company, like if we take Bud Light, for example, just because they, you know, kind of came out and made a public statement like, hey, Dylan Mulvaney's cool, in the back end, all of that money that they're making from selling their beer is turning into political donations to views that we do not align with. So she's basically like, we gotta boycott Bud Light because they sent a trans woman a beer can with her face on it, when instead really it's like, but they actually do, like, even though they don't outwardly say that they are more supportive of your views financially, monetarily, they are funding all of the hateful rhetoric that you are pushing, funding the politicians who say the same shit as you. What are you gonna do about it, ma'am? You're not thinking straight. It is very clear with this post. It's all very surface level. She doesn't look any further into fucking anything, be it the Bible, be it political funds and donations and things. She doesn't look into any of that. All this is using hate to sell her MLM. Now, she did turn off comments on this post, and I believe it's because when Hannah posted about this, a lot of people went and like flooded the comments calling her a hateful this and that. So the comments are gone. Can't see all that. But anyway, real quick, let's just thank my patrons and my members, guys. Oh, also don't forget merch, new merch, struggling merch, along with my rose tattoos and my mouth. Check those out. Thank you. Now let's thank my patrons and my members. The list of names I'm about to read off are my financial supporters. They get access to things like our private Discord server. We have a postcard club, early access to videos. Sometimes they'll get early access to this video, and sometimes even more than that. So if any of that sounds good to you, you can go to patreon.com/Savannah Marie, or you can click the join button beneath this video to join YouTube memberships. The only difference now, if you're a YouTube member and not a patron, you get a little Pop-Tart by your name. Yeah, unfortunately on Patreon, you don't get that. But the reason I have both is because I know that some people prefer one over the other, but also on Patreon, it's a lot easier for me to keep track of like the postcard club and stuff. People who are in my YouTube members, I don't have access to their address right away, so I have to like go tracking you down and stuff and trying to find you to get your address to send you a postcard. So that's why it's easier if you're gonna join the postcard club. It's easier for me if you join on Patreon, and if you don't, just send me an email, send me your address so I don't have to track you down. I would appreciate that. But either way, I mean, I'm appreciative of you guys either way. Join the party, guys. Anyway, with that, the biggest thank you in the whole wide world goes to my camouflaged life, Ari, Martine Hubert, Amy Louise, Mitchie 84, Mira SIK, LaSalle Story, Laura Jensen, Mother Dragon 82, Han Bjornson, Baby Pink Pearl, Fallon Lowry, Hannah, Miss Blue, Carrie K, Love to Be Evil, The Best Elephant, Jessica Billhart, Jess Kronfeld, Emion, Auntie Lou, Hula Chowdown, Janelle Pratt, Elizabeth Wyatt, Kisesi Drew, Nitty Dragon, Leanne, Sheila Tapia, Amy Dolinak, Caroline Reed, Charlotte Treese, Daniel Urena, Maddie Darley, Ray, Shayna, Tuesday the 13th, and Turd Ferguson. And to the rest of my fabulous financial supporters, thank you so much for being here and being you. Thank you for making it to the end of this video, even if you're not a financial supporter. Like, you just being here helps my videos get seen by other people, and I know this one was a toughie. So thank you for being here. Keep making waves, babes, and I'll smell you all later. Mami Tsunami out.